Okay, so let's move on to the ticketing interface. So in our last video we did some initial setup, we created some categories and groups, and we set up an inbound email account, and now we're going to go through the actual ticketing interface. So you can see I have one ticket in here. I got into this interface by clicking the tickets icon over here on the left, and this ticket that's listed here was created by me sending an email to that mailbox that we created in the previous video. So what this ticketing interface shows you is a list of all your tickets that meet the filters you have applied, and we'll get into the filters in a little bit. But I can see all my tickets in here. So right now this is the only ticket I have. I'm going to go ahead and click on it, and we'll go through this interface and talk about what each part means. So up on the top we have the subject. This is going to be the subject of the ticket, which when it's inbound by email will be the subject of that first incoming email. We have some icons showing different aspects of the ticket. This shows it's public, which means I can post a public reply on it, which would be an email that goes back to the customer. Conversely, if this was internal, we would only be able to post internal comments, which would only be available internally. It shows me the priority, the categories assigned, the group it's assigned to, the user it's assigned to, if it is assigned to one, and the spam score. So if you remember in the last video we talked about spam filtering, and I said you'd probably want to use between 5 and 10. This will let you look at your emails if you want to enable this and see on average what the spam score looks like. Over on the right here we have a button where we can subscribe, edit, and delete the ticket. We'll talk about subscriptions a little later. And then down below, starting on the left, we have the actual feed of the ticket. So you see the first entry here with this mailbox icon. That's an incoming email that got turned into a ticket, and Simon Westlake sent this in. That would have been the name that was on the email that came in. It said he's having a serious problem, he's completely out of Doritos. So before we start dealing with this, we can look at a couple of aspects of this email if we want to. I can click here to see the signature on the email, and so we can see any signature that was appended to the email if we want to look at that. And we can also view the headers of the email over here if that's something that we need to do. Down below you'll see it says Sonar admin added a comment. So a comment, which is posted using this internal comment form below here, is internal only. It's only viewable by other employees, and it's not sent to the customer. So if you want to put something on the ticket that the customer's not going to see, or if this is an internal ticket and that's all we can post, then you would put a comment on there. If I want to reply to the user, I would come back and do a public reply, and so I could say something in here like all we have available is nacho cheese flavor, and I can append some files to here if I want to. If I wanted to email him back some photos of all the Doritos we have or whatever I might want to send, I can put some files on here as well. When I hit preview, you'll see we can see what the email is going to look like, so who it's going to, where it's coming from, what the content of the email is, and you'll see the signature under here. Now if you remember when we configured our signature we put a public name value here, and this is empty. So I don't actually want that to look like that, so I'm going to come back out of here and we're going to go and fix that. If I go into my profile, you'll see I have an option for my public name, and the reason we have this is you might have an internal name. Let's say really what I have here is John Doe, right? That's my name. I don't really want to send my full name to customers. Maybe I have a very big company, I don't want to share all of my support personnel's real names, and so I just want to use a first name, or maybe I do something like John D or whatever I might want to do. I can save that, and then when I come back and reply to this ticket again, go into the reply and I'll say all we have is nacho cheese, put any files I want in there, and I preview. You'll see we now have John D shown as the name. So this looks good to me. I see who it's going to, where it's coming from, the reply, and so I'm going to go ahead and send that. And so if we wait a couple of seconds here, what will happen is this is going to go in the back end and send an email out to the user, and we'll get a little log entry saying the reply was either sent successfully or it failed. So we know that the email went out, and we know that it went out successfully, or we know we weren't able to send it. Let's say we weren't able to send it, it didn't work for some reason, it said reply failed to Simon@sonar.software. We can come in and edit the ticket and take a look, and we have the option here to change the email address on the ticket. So maybe this is typoed in some way, maybe we need to update it, but I can come in here and do that, and I can come in here and I can change anything about this ticket in this edit menu. So I could change the subject, I can add some categories, I could assign it to a different group, I could assign it to a specific user, Or I could come in here and I can assign it specifically to an account. So if I had some accounts in my system, I had an account for Simon Westlake, and this email came in and it was from a different email address than what was on his account, I could come in here and I can search for the account here by typing in the name, or I can type in the ID. We can also set some other data on here that's never set on an inbound email. For example, I can set a due date. So when you set a due date on a ticket, if a user is responsible for that ticket, they're going to get notifications about it as the due date comes up, and we can also have it push into their calendar, and I'll show you how to configure that a little later on. So let's say this guy had an issue, right? He's out of Doritos, he's starving to death, and he needs them by, I don't know, Friday, right? I can put a due date of Friday on here, and I can say these Doritos must be delivered by Friday. So now when we look at this ticket, I'm able to see there's a due date on there, and I'm able to know that this has to be done by this time, and if there was a responsible user on here, they'd get notified of that. Now there's other ways we can deal with a specific time where something needs to be done, because maybe if I just set a due date on a ticket, it's not necessarily clear what it is that's due. What is it that needs to be done? I don't really know. And so we can deal with that by using tasks, and that's over on the right here. So if we look under tasks, I can create a task, and so I can say, I want to be more specific here, deliver Doritos. I can set a due date of the 10th, and I can set the user, and so I can search in here for the user in a number of different ways. I can type in the username, I can type an ID and a colon and then 1 if I know the ID. In any of these search fields, we can always do an ID. So if we were searching for accounts and we need the account ID, we could do that. I could search for John. Right, so I'm going to assign this to the admin user, and you'll notice immediately I get a notification up here. There's been a task assigned to me. I can click the link to go to the ticket, and I can also look under my tasks list. I have a task I need to deliver Doritos. Here's when it's due. I can check a box to complete it, or I can click over here to go to the ticket the task is on. So this is pretty powerful because on a ticket we can have all kinds of tasks. We might have a very complicated ticket need. Maybe here we also need to deliver Mountain Dew, and that's got to be done on a different day, and that's going to be done by a different user. We're going to have it by the guy with the username of John, and I can create that, and that's going to get assigned over to him, and he will see that up in his list of tasks. And so then as an admin user, let's say I've come in and I've delivered these Doritos, I can check this off, and that's going to remove it from my task list. I can hit show completed and see that. I can also check it off in here, which would also complete it in here. So you can get as crazy as you want with all these tasks. You might have tickets that are internal to track things like replacing all the equipment at a network site, or maybe you're doing some kind of complex migration of a hosting platform, or really anything you want to do. These tasks allow you to do it, and you can assign them and set due dates and all that kind of thing. So if I want to use these tasks extensively, one of the things that you probably want to do is get these tasks into a different calendar. You probably want to be able to get them into your Google Calendar or into Outlook or something like that. And so if I go up into my profile, see we have an option here for integrations, and we have two options. There's a link to iCal endpoint, and so I can copy this link and I can go and put that into something like Thunderbird and as an email client or an Outlook or something like that. And we can also enable direct Google Calendar integration, which will allow us to push these tasks into my calendar. So if you have a guy that's maybe working out in the field a lot and you're assigning tasks to him through tickets, he can link it up to his Google Calendar and get it on his phone right away. Okay, let's jump back into that ticket. So there's a couple of other things over on the right here. We have entities recent tickets. If this is assigned to an account, and the account has had 3 or 4 tickets already in the past, we'll be able to see them here so we can see, is this a repetitive issue? Is this something that's happening a lot? Or is this something that's unrelated to any prior tickets? We also have child tickets, and we have all the files that are shown on the account, on the ticket. So we'll go into child tickets a little later on, but just be aware as we're looking at this, if this is a parent ticket, you'll see the children here. And then if any comment or reply on this ticket has any files attached to it, you'll be able to see all the files listed here. You'll also see them listed directly on the reply or comment if we're looking at that. Okay, so we kind of been dealing with this ticket a little bit. Let's say all the tasks are complete. I've emailed the customer and said, you know, you got your Doritos, I hope you're happy. I can come in here and I can close the ticket out. And the ticket's done. So now I can go back and it's no longer shown here because the filters I have set are excluding that. And we're going to get into filters in the next video and I'll show you how those work. But let's just create a new ticket real quick so you can see what that looks like. So if we wanted to make an internal ticket where we only have internal comments, we'd pick internal. If we're making a public ticket to go to a customer, we could do that here. So let's say we're going to make a new public ticket. We're having a problem for a customer and I want to send them an email. We're going to pick the email address to send from. We set that up in the last video. I'm going to send it out from my support email. I'm going to say regarding your DNS issue. I put in here a message to the customer. I'm going to say, regarding your DNS issue, we've modified the A record you requested. Let me know if you need anything else. We can pick some categories. We can assign it to a group. We can assign it to a user. I can assign it to a specific account. And if I assign it to an account, then this email address field down here will get populated with all the contacts on the account, so I can fill an email address automatically. If I'm not assigning this with an account, I can just put an email address I want to send the ticket to. And again, we have the due date, we have the priority, we have an option to show me this ticket after it's created. So if I submit that, it's going to take us over to the ticket right away. And you can see I created this ticket. We immediately get the update saying that it's been successfully sent. And again, we can go through and do comments and replies, and I can put tasks on here and do all the other things we talked about. So that's a quick overview into the ticketing interface. In the next video, we're going to get into some more detail.